Hello, everybody. This is Jay, and I am here with my good friend Jackie.
Hello.
And we are here because we just watched the movie Cuties, and I don't have Netflix, so actually, she doesn't have Netflix either, so we're using her niece's account to watch it. So we went ahead and saw it, and this is going to be the review of it. Um, First off, I'll always start with would I recommend, and no, because not for nothing else, because it wasn't a very good movie. It had very poor direction. The script was very bad, just poorly written. It from a technical side, it looked like it was filmed on somebody's iPhone. It really had a very low quality of filming, as well as just the way it was put together. It looked like something some 15-year-olds would do on a weekend, sort of thing, with most of the shots and the way the things were composed. So, from a technical standpoint and from a direction and writing, it was a bad movie. It wasn't very good. Very low quality, uh, student film quality. But of course, this has controversy behind it because of the sexualization of the little girls who are in the film, which, to be honest, is not nearly as bad as many French films out there. Remembering this is a French film, and they have a lot of very questionable stuff in French movies, and so, like I said, this is not even close to being the worst French movie of all, but it definitely is exploitative, and they definitely exploited little girls in the sense that the biggest problem I see with it is that nothing is clear. Like, the director was right in that it is against the sexualization of little girls, but the problem I see is she walked this really weird tightrope where she wasn't willing to condemn the sexualization, even though she was saying that the sexualization of these girls at this age isn't a good thing. By the end, that is not necessarily obvious, but there are scenes that let you know that it was a bad thing that the girls went through this and did this sort of thing, and that the sexualization at this age, at 11 years old, was far too early for them. And so that is something that the director said about it, and that's true, that is. But again, even that, the way they did it, the way it was filmed, I mean, there are all kinds of issues. There's just things about the fact that it was filmed in a very low brow sort of way, where that, like, when the girls are dancing, instead of where most movies they would zoom out when the little girl is mimicking masturbating while laying on the ground, they actually zoom in and focus on the crotches and focus on their butts. And when there's a camel toe, they zoom in on the camel toe instead of moving out of the camel toe. So it was a very trashy movie in that sense, that they accentuated things that generally in a coming of age movie like this, they would actually minimize a little bit. And then the other weird thing about the way that it is that essentially the director and the direction of the movie, it condemns both sides. They're obviously against the traditionalism. That's very obvious. There's a scene where the clothes of the traditional garb is sitting on the bed, and then there is the trashy clothes that she was wearing, the crop top and everything, is sitting on the bed also, and she leaves wearing like children's clothes instead. And that's obvious that she's saying that the director's making a point of saying the traditional stuff, she's not into that, but she's also not into the sexualization of little kids. But again, it's that tightrope where she's not willing to say that that music video that of Cardi B that they show in the video is bad. They're not willing to say that because obviously she's walking that tightrope. You can't say women aren't allowed to be nude and sexually provocative. But the point is that it's too much for the little girls to handle. And that point is in there, but the problem is it's the script is really bad. It's or either that or the editing is really bad. It was edited down because that's not obvious. It's sort of hidden in there, and it just looks like it comes off like an exploitation film. So there really is something to be said about the fact that there is a point to what the director is making, but it gets lost in the way that the movie was put together, the way the movie was filmed. There are a couple of scenes where the girls are acting like kids, and that's when they're happy and playful and they're having fun. But the rest of the time, when they're mimicking the adults and mimicking the sexuality, they're very obviously, there's drama associated with it. They're acting mean to each other and fighting and pulling hair. And another trope that they do, which I absolutely hate, which is in almost all movies these days, is that all the little girls just are, and for lack of a better term, and earmuffs for any children listening, but they're just all little bitches. The whole time they're just being bitchy and just complaining and calling things and doing everything horrible about it as a stereotype of little girls. And it's just sort of like, well, that's just how they are. And that's not just how they are, because I have many of relatives and family members and people I've been around, and little girls do not have to just be catty and sassy all the time. It's not a given. Now, to be honest with you, that also could be something about the fact that there's a father issue. Her father is getting married to a second woman, and the mother is breaking down over this, and the father is absent, and the little girl says she never wants to see her father again because of this. And to be honest with you, that could be a connection there, because to be honest with you, every time I've ever seen a little girl that's not catty and sassy like that, it's usually because their father has stepped in and said, no, it's not going to happen. Like, I have a friend that their daughter was getting about that age, and she was getting very, very smart-mouthed and everything, and the mom was just like, well, that's how girls are. And he was just like, no, that's not how my daughter is. I'm not accepting it. There's no such thing as temper tantrums and stuff when you're 11 or 12. And he put his foot down, and she was a very well-adjusted kid, and she's 15 now, I think. So she's a great person and everything. So it doesn't have to be, but the problem is that in this movie, there's no consequences for anything. I think that's the biggest problem I had watching it, is there's no consequences. It doesn't matter when they're stealing stuff, when they're abusing other people, when they're attacking people, when they're posting naked pictures of 11-year-olds themselves on the internet, when, after that happens, the boy slaps the girl's butt and calls her a slut, she stabs him in the hand for it, and there's literally no consequence for anything. And the only two times there ever is a consequence by one of the mother or the aunt, the other one steps in and stops it. So, like, instead of being punished, the other one says, no, let her go. And they do. And then when the other one is sick of her and going after her, the other one says, no, let her go. And so there's never a consequence for anything. There's never the little girls do whatever they want, and there's never a consequence. Again, that's why I think there's a feeling of, it's just like, well, that's just how little girls are. Because if there was a punishment for anything, I mean, fighting in school, no problem. Stabbing a child, another fellow classmate, she got slapped by her mom, but her aunt stepped in and was like, no, stop, So again, there's a real big problem of, it's just very bad writing and very bad direction. The direction so much is because a lot of the stuff just isn't good. The camera angles aren't all good, aren't very good at all. A lot of it, it's edited very shoddily and very. There's a couple scenes, and inside the scene, there's a couple camera shots that are out of order, to where the girl is obviously here, and she grabs the other one at the next shot. She's not grabbing her, and something else is being said. And then they go back and she's grabbing her again. So there's a lot of technical issues with the movie, as well as there's direction issues and editing. The editing is very shoddy. It's not very good. And like I said, they'll linger on a shot of a girl's touching her crotch instead of zooming out or pulling away when that should be, that sort of thing. So it's very exploitative in that sense. But the director, if you look hard enough at it, which you try not to because it's little girls being sexy, but if you look hard enough, you can find that the director is making a point that there's a problem with what you're seeing and what you're and with what the girls are doing. Again, the biggest issue is there's no consequences to any of it. There's no consequence. So it's, well, she's sad when in Caddy, and there's drama when she's acting, mimicking an adult, and she's happy when she's being a child. But outside of that, there is no actual consequence, which is one of those problems we have today in today's society. Is a lot of people go around doing stuff and there's no consequence for it. There used to be a consequence, there isn't now. But again, that's that tightrope that they're walking, where they're not willing to condemn the over-sexualization of people. They're just willing to say that it's not good for little girls to do that, or it's too early. And that's the biggest point of this whole movie. The whole movie is that everything's too early. You know, she gets her period when she's 11. It's too early. The aunt's talking about getting married when you're 13, which is too early. The girls are being, posting nude photos of themselves online, which is too early. There's a back and forth which isn't really addressed in the thing, but there's the one are called the Sweeties, and the other dance group is the Cuties. The Sweeties are like 14 or 15. The Cuties are like 11. And so the Sweeties, the one girl lifts up her top in the one Instagram video. And so that's why they start being sexy, and she shows, takes a picture between her legs and posts it online. The 11-year-old does. And again, it's just, it's very uneven. There's a lot of problems with the script. It's a very poor script. As French films go, it's actually a very poor French film, because usually French films actually address the topics a lot more direct and a lot better than this. And this is not. This is definitely not directed very well. So it's not a good movie. I mean, it's an hour and 35 minutes long, and at an hour and 5 minutes, I was just praying that it would end quicker and that it would just be over. And so yeah, it is a trash movie. It's a very poorly done movie. There is a point to it. There is a heart behind it, but I think it gets lost in the exploitation of the little girls in it. But definitely it's not a recommend. Out of a 1 out of 10 scale, I would probably put it as a 2 at best. Of course, I would give it no stars at a 0 to 4 star level. It's just not a good movie. It's a trashy movie. It's, like I said, poor camera work, poor editing, poor script, poor direction. And the biggest issue is Netflix. Netflix did the wrong thing. They marketed it like a you-go girl coming of age. This is girls finding themselves, and it's a good thing, when it's not. The movie is slow and drab and dreary, and it's just not, it's not fun. It's not a fun movie to watch. But Netflix is the problem. The way they marketed it was the problem. They marketed it with girl power and you go girl, and that's not what the movie is. It's meant to be sad and depressing and to make you feel bad at the end of the movie. And so this is really a Netflix issue. They really dropped the ball on this sort of thing. It just wasn't good. So that's the review. I'm not one that tells the whole story of what the movie's all about and everything. It's not a good movie to watch. It's not fun. And it's not a very good movie. From a movie standpoint, it's not a very good movie. From an exploitation point, it's not a very good movie. And so, like I said, 0, do not recommend to watch this. Definitely. The weirdest part is, it's a movie about 11-year-olds that you have to be over 18 to watch because it's restricted. Just such a crazy thing to be involved with. So that is the review, and we thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next video where I'll be reviewing a comic book. And with that, take care.